Ladies and gentlemen, just what is the power of one person under the Constitution? Let's talk about it. 211 years ago, 55 of a continent's greatest minds gathered together in a red brick state house in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They closed their doors to the outside world, and in 17 weeks of argument and deliberation, developed the single most influential document in the history of our nation. On its parchment pages, a government was envisioned, whose greatest strength was not the efficiency of the perfect system, nor the wisdom and ability of but a single ruler, but rather the inherent responsibility of the very people it governed. The very idea that an individual has not only the right, but the duty to make his own decisions is a perspective that, while not unique, is certainly a rare form of bureaucratic control. But is it an effective one? Is our democratic entity capable of sustaining the success it has enjoyed until now? To answer these questions, one may look to the great Athenian ancestors of our democracy. Let's step back 400 years before the birth of Christ and listen as Socrates and a group of his students discussed the nature of government. When one student asked, "Teacher, do you believe that our government will someday fall?" "Of course," Socrates replied. "But, teacher, are we not a democracy? Surely the people cannot object to rule by the people." To which Socrates replied, "What if the people are not fit to rule?" Those men who met in Philadelphia evidently believed that the people were fit to rule. For in this Constitution of the United States, they gave to the common man rights that were at that time completely revolutionary. The right to vote, the right to speak and assemble and print, the right to bear arms, the right to worship freely, and many other rights not above enumerated. But how often do we, their descendants, consider the other side of the coin? It is often said that with privilege comes responsibility. But how often do we apply that principle to the exercise of our constitutional rights? The First Amendment to the Constitution proclaims that the right of a people to communicate an idea through spoken or written language is above challenge. But do we utilize this gift of communication responsibly? Are today's press unbiased and judicious? Do the tabloid press and the paparazzi exercise their rights with sufficient reverence for their power to harm? Have we, the citizens of this nation, made a conscious decision to boycott irresponsible journalism in an effort to protect the rights we hold so dear? Or do the racy pictures and the stories of lives destroyed take precedence over an intellectual exchange of culture and ideas and events when we approach the radio or the newsstand or the television? It is not the duty of government to censor our media, but rather the responsibility of we, the watchers, the readers, the listeners, the people, to regulate ourselves. How often we have heard it said, the pen is mightier than the sword. But how often is the pen treated with as much respect for its power as a weapon? Our Constitution also gives us the right to keep and bear arms, not for hunting or target practice or even self-defense, but rather so that, and I quote, "a free state shall be maintained." With the Second Amendment, the people are guaranteed that come what may, in the final tally, the power remains within the hands of the people. It is a rare thing for a government to acknowledge a people's natural right to forcibly rebel. But with any right, with any privilege, with any freedom comes responsibility. And this nation must be more responsible in its uses of firearms. Until accidental deaths by firearms are unheard of, until loose cannon militias start talking before they start shooting, until every 17-year-old gangster in this country understands that he betrays the faith of an entire nation every time he packs his peace, then it is the duty of every freedom-loving citizen to do their part to dispel the ignorance that causes such acts of irresponsibility. Our Constitution gives us so many privileges as citizens of these United States. Yet without question, the one that is the most important is the one that we most often abuse. We are given the precious prerogative of individually choosing that person who we feel would provide the most effective leadership for our cities, our counties, our states, and our nation. Yet almost without exception, in all of our polls, fewer than 50% of our population chooses to exercise that right. This popular lethargy poses a most clear and present danger to the continuity of our great nation. 2,400 years ago, Socrates predicted that democratic nations would drown in their own facts. We in this country are sitting, watching a glowing box filled with flying electrons while a nation struggles on around us. In the past, we heard our destruction in the approaching footsteps of armies or in the roar of ballistic missiles. Now it plays a much less sinister tune. In fact, it sounds eerily like the theme song to Roseanne, or Beavis and Butthead, or is it The Simpsons? Why should John and Jane Doe worry about something like voting, civic participation, when their opinions don't really count anyway? Or do they? The fact of the matter is, the most important decisions in this nation are not made by the President or the Speaker of the House, but rather by 250 million individuals with a lot of the same problems, hopes, dreams, and needs. It is upon the shoulders of these individuals that our Constitution places the burdens of democratic freedom. Benjamin Franklin, soon after signing the Constitution, was asked by a waitress, "Well, doctor, what have we got, a republic or a monarchy?" "A republic," Franklin replied, "if you can keep it." Can we keep it? Patrick Henry shouted, "Give me liberty or give me death." John and Jane Doe often whimper, "No need to vote. My vote doesn't matter. No need to speak out. My voice won't be heard. No need to contribute to the success of my government, my society. I'm just one person." Ladies and gentlemen, that is not true. James Madison, while fashioning the Constitution, stated that our government must derive its power directly and individually from the great body of the people. But with over 50% of that great body remaining silent or apathetic, the whole intent of the Constitution and the greatness of this nation are in jeopardy. Just as a huge, strong building can implode, crumble upon itself, if so much as one brace, one support is faulty, so too can our nation fall if we do not individually accept and exercise our constitutional privileges and responsibilities. There's a story that illustrates this point with great clarity. For want of a nail, a horseshoe was lost. For want of a horseshoe, a horse was lost. For want of a horse, a rider was lost. For want of a rider, a message was lost. For want of a message, a battle was lost, and a nation died. And all for the lack of a horseshoe nail. Ladies and gentlemen, every one of us is like that nail, critically, individually important, because government must derive its power from us, the people. Harry Truman once said that man has a moral and intellectual capacity, as well as the inalienable right to govern himself with reason and justice. We have come too far. We have toiled too much to lay down our constitutional privileges and responsibilities. And with the dedication of the men and women of these United States, we may be sure that the power of one under the Constitution will prevail. Thank you.